Herman Melville.
Very nice to meet you. I'm a big fan of your work.
You are?
I spent my summer with your work.
You did?
I did.
And which work was that?
That was Moby-Dick.
You read, what was your favorite part of Moby-Dick?
I really liked the beginning, the language in the beginning, because it really sucked me in and made me think of the universal.
Okay.
The universal experience of being by the water.
Okay.
But I mean, I loved Queequeg. He was one of my favorite characters. So most of the scenes with Queequeg made me really excited.
Interesting person Queequeg was.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, and I don't know if you realize it, but Moby-Dick is based on a true story.
I heard something about
It is. I actually met the son of one of the survivors of the Essex whale ship sinking, and it was sunk by a whale. And when I heard the story, I served on the Acushnet whale ship with his son, and it was through his journal that his son gave me that I grasped the idea. And I actually got all of the workings of a whale ship by first-hand experience of being a whaler before I became a writer.
Wow.
And I actually served under a captain just like my Captain Ahab, which is why myself and my friend Tobias Green abandoned ship when we were out in the Marquesas Islands, which was cannibalistic island, and he disappeared. And I didn't know what happened to Tobias.
Did you ever find him?
Not then. I can just imagine they were cannibals, which means they ate people. And they also used to be headhunters and shrink heads. So I thought the worst. But after 4 months of spending on that island, I found my way off and I escaped off on another whale ship. And I continued whaling for another year and a half. So I had all that experience. And my first book, you need to read, called Taipei, basically is all the experiences on the Marquesas Island.
Wow.
And people thought that the story was so fantastic that it couldn't possibly be true, until lo and behold, I ran into Tobias Green again, and he confirmed my story as everything was true in the book.
So his head was the normal.
He was not beheaded. He found his way. He grabbed the opportunity to get off the island on another boat that was there.
No. I'm Captain James Willis, and you want to know what happened to my beloved Rebecca Sims? I met Rebecca Sims in October 1861, and I was given sealed orders to take her to Savannah, Georgia, which I did in the middle of November. And in the middle of December, I put her at the bottom of the Charleston Harbor. And that was because she was one of the 17 ships of the Stone Fleet. We had loaded her with 300 tons of stone, and we sunk them there trying to stop the South from getting out to attack the North.
Hi, I'm Mary Bartlett. My husband is Ivory Bartlett, and rumor has it that during the Civil War, he was selling his ships to the Northern Army. He owned, along with his father and his brother George, one of the largest whaling and commission firms in the city of New Bedford. He sold the ships to the north, and they filled them with stones and sailed them up to Charleston Harbor, where they sank the ships to prevent provisions and weapons from getting into the South. And this is one of New Bedford's contributions, the Stone Fleet, to aid in the Civil War.
Inspecting your ship.
No, it's not my ship.
It's not.
I've sold all my ships.
You did?
Long
Really?
since. I sold them when they were worth something.
They're not worth anything now?
Good heavens, no. Whaling's on its way out. As soon as they had that business with the rock oil, in Pennsylvania, you knew it was on its way out. It's not worth it.
But,
not worth it.
But
definitely not.
didn't you have touch your hands in that oil in Pennsylvania as well?
Well, that's another whole story. But I also know how to grease the wheels on the railroad. There's where you should put your money. In stocks and in bonds. Buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. That's the way to do that.
And what do they call that? Capitalism?
Nothing wrong with that. At least when a man does it. When a woman does it, they say that she's an old witch. Do you know what the children have been asking me? They've been saying, why do you wear black?
Question, why do you wear black?
Well, my goodness, have you ever noticed that all of the serious businessmen, what color do they wear?
Of course we wear black.
Well, of course. Now, can you picture Jonathan Bourne in a pink frilly suit?
No,
He'd
but
never have been taken seriously, and neither would I be taken seriously.
that's a good point.
Besides, it's very practical. I don't have to be going out and buying a new dress for this and a new frock for that and a new thing for that. That's frivolous. Do you know that my hat, for example, I have flour on my hat, and it's made of dyed chicken feathers. Now, I paid no more for that than my friend Annie Leary pays for one flower to put on a hat every day. Well, that's foolish. Who wants to walk around with a dead flower on your hat? And my flower will be good for at least 10 years.
10 years, you say?
Oh, good heavens, yes.
Really? But
I can't see wasting money on frivolous things. You
okay.
invest and you learn to make do with the other things.
And-
Otherwise, that's silly. Of course, that's my good Quaker upbringing, I'm sure.
And where did you learn all of this
And
Yankee
my
thrift?
father's knee and my grandfather's as well. I was reading the stock market reports and that sort of thing for my grandfather, old Gideon Howland.
I think I've come across Gideon Howland.
I'm sure you have. And Black Hawk Robinson.
Oh, I've heard that name down on the docks.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Well, that's my father. Was my father.
Then you must be Hetty Green.
I certainly am.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
So do you have anything that I can invest in?
Well, if you are serious about investments, but frankly, Mr. Melville, from what I've heard, you come to New Bedford every time you need money and you go home to your sister Sarah up there on Medicine Street and Cottage Street. That's true.
I do visit her when I come to New Bedford. It's the family thing to do when I come to New Bedford.
Well, I suppose it is, but if you didn't always ask her for money, I'm sure she'd be a lot happier to see you.
Well, that's supposed to be kept in the family.
Well, you know, if it's never done, it's never found out. Just remember that, Mr. Melville.
Well, you know, I haven't written a successful book as successful as Tai P. But, you know, coming back here now after my death in 1891, I've discovered that my book, Moby-Dick, was my best-selling book after I died.
Isn't that always the way? That's always the sad part about things, you know.
It is.
It's like I could never understand why my father didn't leave me my full money to be handled by my own hand. I was so much better at it than the people that he left it in with. I mean, he actually thought that my dear Edward, you know, my husband, Big Ed Green, was a terrific person, but he was not a good businessman, and I had to bail him out of more problems. You know how it is. But that's love, isn't it?
I guess so. Well, Mrs. Green, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Well, this has been a lovely experience coming back, even if it's only for the day or for the night.
For the night, exactly. Thank you.
Well, and so we were talking about these people who are considered to be property. And it is a very sad thing. And if you promise not to tell, do you promise not to tell? New Bedford and our town here, we are considered a stop on the Underground Railroad. Now, that is neither a railroad nor underground, but it is a stop because many Quakers and other people who don't believe that people should be treated as property, we help them to escape and to become free. And they're all down in the southern states, as I said. They work on those big plantations where they grow things. You know, we grow things up here too, but we certainly do not have people who work for us and treat them as property. But these people need to escape, and it is very dangerous. And it isn't very dangerous for the people who are helping them because they also can be arrested for helping because this is people's property. And when you've paid money for something and you lose it, you are by rights angered, And so the Southern ladies make their quilts a little differently, and they hang them outside. And they put big symbols, big colorful symbols that the escaping slaves are all taught about. And one might say, follow the North Star. Another might say, it's time to run now. or another to pack your things, or that in our house you will find food and shelter, okay? Because they couldn't read. Okay? And it would be very dangerous to be saying these things out loud, because if you were overheard, then again you would be arrested as well. And so they would come north and follow these signs and symbols from the quilts of the Quaker ladies in the South. And they would come up north, sometimes through Ohio. They would look for different cities along the eastern seaboard where water. And they would actually come to Newport and here to New Bedford. And they would oftentimes go out on my husband and father's whale ships to get to their safety, where they could go off and be away for years at a time, end up in another land, or hopefully perhaps find themselves back to their homeland. And so the quilts that they use in the South are special symbols for them, so they can help them to escape. Because our family is very big in whaling, you know, yes. My father, and actually, you know, my great-grandfather started Old Bedford Village before it became the town and city of New Bedford. We came from Nantucket, where I was born, where we were whaling families there. Okay? And my father has built his second very large home up on County Street. You may know of it. It's named after he has put the name on it. And we are well known for the beautiful gardens and orchards that they had. The men of the time really liked to grow different fruits. At one time, my father grew more than 40 different kinds of pears. And it was a source of great pride to the gentlemen of the town to see who could grow the most unique kind and who could bring back the different specimens through their whale ships and tails. Now, my husband James and I had bought some land from Father's estate, and we built a small house up on County Street as well, on the corner of Union Street. It's a small brick house, nothing too ostentatious. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And what we did, though, is we put the house on the corner so that we could have most of the land for the farming, the orchards, and all the beautiful gardens that my husband so is fond of. Yes. Yes. Oh. Have you been by our homes? Yeah. Yes. And actually, you know, I said that was my father's second home, my father's first home. And, you know, he has long gone. But I decided that, you know, one doesn't need too many pieces of property. And as I've gotten older, I've decided to give Father's first house to the New Bedford Port Society, which is a group that serves to help all the sailors and their families. And actually, I believe it's right across the street, and it is a place for people who have worked in the field to end their years. So we hope that is done well by them. So have I answered your quilt question? So many people are interested in my quilt tonight. I would have never known that by making such an ordinary item, I would have had such interest. Do any of you make, oh, you're quite welcome, good madam. Do any of you sew or make quilts? No? Oh, no. But you are busy going to school, is that correct? Oh, that's very nice that you're able to go to school, because all children don't get a chance to be educated, so I hope that you enjoy that. Very good. Well, I'm so glad to see you all.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, hello. My name is Ann Burgess, and I'm sitting here in my kitchen reading love letters from my husband, Paul Burgess. My husband, Paul, is a whaler on board the ship Chelsea, who's sailing off to the Pacific, and I haven't heard from him in about 10 months. He writes of misfortunes from the crew who are experiencing cholera breakouts, and it's devastating, and we're losing half of the crew members. What if that's my poor Paul and he doesn't come back to me? I still have to get a letter out to him since I haven't heard from him in about 3 months. I need to get word out about our son, Joseph Hathaway Burgess, who was just born. He hasn't even met his father. So if you know anybody who's going on board the ship Richmond, please tell them Anne has a letter that she needs to post for her husband.
Shipman Benjamin, how are you?
I'm wonderful, sir. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Happy to be alive.
Are you? Now, why is it that you're happy to be alive?
Have you not heard
Heard what?
about the Whaleship Essex?
I have, but it's been a long time. So why don't you fill me in a little bit?
In August of 1819, we set sail from Nantucket. It's supposed to be a lucky ship, a greasy ship, they say.
A greasy ship.
A greasy ship.
I've never heard that before.
Greasy, it means that we take a lot of oil.
Okay.
The more oil we get, the wealthier we'll be, the sooner we get to come home. We set sail. 2 days out, a squall hits unexpectedly. Our captain, young, Mr. Pollard, isn't sure what to do. Turns the ship too late. Squall hits us from the side, capsizes the ship.
Really?
Rolls back over, not a man was lost. A lucky ship
That is a lucky ship.
so far.
Okay, so it becomes unlucky?
We continue. We get through the Azores, Cape Verde, have not spotted a single whale yet. Get to South America, we spot our first pod of sperm whales. Owen Chase, our boat header. Myself, Benjamin Lawrence, boat steerer, first to reach the whales. I plunge my harpoon deep into that whale, and it stoves the boat. The other two boats have to cease their pursuits, come rescue us, pull us back. That was our first attempt. Met with moderate success after that. Reached Cape Horn. Supposed to be pleasant season, the summer down there. It takes us 5 weeks to get around through the storms. Work our way up the west coast, off the Galapagos, and finally, 1,000 miles west of the Galapagos Islands, the single furthest point from land we could be in the entire world, we spot a pod of sperm whales. 8 o'clock in the morning, November 20th, 1820. We go out after those whales. Owen Chase blames me for some mishaps that have happened. Designates me to steering. Takes a harpoon in hand. Plunges it deep within the whale. Again, the whale stoves the boat. Punches a hole in the side. What do? Take our shirts. We stuff them in that hole. We row our way back to that ship. We bring it back on deck. Now, we could use the spare boat, but it would take us about an hour to get it prepared. So instead, Owen Chase, yet again, always the thinker, decides he's going to take canvas and nail it over that hole. That is the same sound that a sperm whale makes when it is echolocating. Young Thomas Nickerson, 15 years old, cabin boy, is the first to spot the 85-foot-long male sperm whale watching us. Right off of larboard bow. We stop what we are doing, we watch it. It dives down, and it comes up closer. And it dives down, and it comes up closer. Hits the side of our ship so hard it knocks us to our knees. Comes up along the other side, shoots off towards the bow, turns around, comes back, hits us again so hard it pushes our 238-ton ship backwards, and it swims off, never to be seen again. 20 of us end up scrambling to be in these boats. 20, in 3 small boats like this. November 20th, 1820. 93 days later, my boat with Thomas Nickerson, Owen Chase, is rescued by the brig Indian. 2 days after that, Pollard, Charles Ramsdell are rescued by the Dauphin. Shortly thereafter, 3 more men are rescued on an island. That's 8 out of 20. The rest did not make it.
Quite the story. As a matter of fact, I thought it was quite the story many years later when myself, Herman Melville, wrote the book Moby-Dick.
Yes.
Came from the story of the Essex.
In fact, the gentleman that I was in this boat with, Owen Chase, that first mate, that same first mate that took the harpoon from me, wrote a journal when they got back. And it was his son that you met in 1841 while you were on the Acushnet out in the Pacific.
It was. Many years later.
Yeah. But where your story ends with the sinking of the ship, that was the beginning of mine.
Well, nice meeting you. Glad you survived.
So am I.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Wall, as you know, I'm only a visitor here to New Bedford. I served off of the whaleship Acushnet, and then I would visit my sister here while she lived here in New Bedford. But I understand you're a native of New Bedford.
Right, I know your sister. She lives off of Madison Street.
Exactly. Spent many a time visiting her there.
Yes, that's right. I have several relatives on County and Madison, and right around that area, yes. Unfortunately, I didn't make a lot of money as an artist, but I did love what I did paint. I painted New Bedford and Fairhaven and Dartmouth, and before this thing called photography, that was the only way to record the region. This is one of one of my paintings, which was actually quite well received. This is a portrait of the city itself. And some of my other pictures record the city from the Fairhaven shore. As a matter of fact, this painting, painted in 1847, the same year New Bedford becomes a city, it looks very much like the city seal. If you look at the city seal, there are some people on the Fairhaven shore waving, shipping in the stream. Although this is a little further north than the seal picture, because in that one you can see Palmer's Island. But this one shows the city. And I was very, very careful to make sure I recorded the city so that anyone who lived here would be able to recognize some of the buildings. And even today, Mr. Melville, you can recognize the Unitarian Church.
I do.
And the county courthouse.
I recognize that.
Town hall. So they tell me now the library. But there they are. Of course, this church is gone, the North Congregational Church. And the white church is gone, which they tell me there's a bank there now. Although banks don't surprise me in New Bedford, because in 1847 there were banks everywhere. It's very funny too, because the Quakers, as you know, became so rich. I was not one of them.
Neither was I.
But when they couldn't hide their wealth any longer, so the local joke goes, they became Unitarians.
Oh, that's funny. And I recognize some of the, I recognize the John Avery Parker Mansion.
Yes, John Avery Parker.
It was said that that was the finest example of residential Greek Revival architecture in the country.
Yes, I'd heard that. The most remarkable place.
I couldn't find it when I was coming here today.
I'm afraid it was taken down.
Oh, what a shame.
Taken down, even though some of the doors, solid mahogany, 4 inches thick.
Wow.
There wasn't anything about the place that wouldn't have lasted 1,000 years. And what I've been told, the workers had so much trouble dismantling the mansion, they left one wing, and behind a wall it said, on a wall by one of the workmen who first put it up, this mansion will never come down easily.
Really?
So
But
that saying. Whether it's a rumor or not, I don't know.
Sure.
But I've heard how well built it was.
I'm trying to see if I can find the house my sister lived in, but I'm not really recognizing it from here.
Well, you see the three houses.
Yes.
The Howland houses.
Yes.
The brick houses are still
Correct.
there. On what street? I think the 7th, or is it
6th?
It's
6th Street. Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, we Quakers didn't think much of naming streets. Although lately streets have been renamed, but back when New Bedford was a town, it was much simpler to call them First Street and 2nd Street
Correct.
and 3rd Street. And so those streets are still there, although some of them have names now as well. But as you can see, further north, there wasn't much.
So rural.
Still very rural, still very much country and a lot of pasture. As a matter of fact, I painted a picture of the pastures when the mills first started getting built. For instance, the same year, Wamsutta Mills. It's over here, as a matter of fact. Let's
take a look.
So here's Wamsutta Mills.
Oh, I don't recognize that.
No, but it was the very first mill built of native granite. I'm told that today this mill no longer stands. And in its place, essentially right here in the foreground, is a gigantic brick building built near at the turn of the century.
Okay.
And a new roadway called Route 18, I'm told.
Route 18.
Yes, that brings people into the city.
That's always a good thing.
It is. Well, in this painting, Route 18 would go right through the foreground, right here, heading south toward the Whaling Museum. So even the Whaling Museum isn't here in this painting, because this painting was painted in 1847.
So there's no cows grazing any longer?
I'm afraid no longer, no. But very interesting. I thought it would be, what's the word? A proper summation for the city in transformation, because here we have the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
Here we have the harbor with the shipping. New Bedford's still very much a port.
Whale ships?
A whale ship.
Whale ships, very good thing.
And Palmer's Island in the distance.
Oh, okay.
Fairhaven, and of course there's the Congregational Church, which still had its spire.
Okay.
You have everything in this picture. You have a city in transition. You have the rural cows and the pasture, and most importantly, you have a train.
Train.
So New Bedford was very, very rich. As a matter of fact, when people say, I was alarmed to find we didn't have a train to Boston anymore, because we had a train to Boston in New Bedford as early as 1840. I remember when it ran. Van Buren was the president, and it first ran on July 1st, 1840. That's how important we were. We needed a train to Boston, and we had one.
Back when we were the richest city per capita in the world.
That's right. That's right. The richest city per capita. I'm so glad you came back to New Bedford.
I'm so happy to have been here today. It's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to people you can well understand.
Yes.
And you yourself.
Very much so. I'm so glad. I hope you revisit us again soon.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
That I may no longer be with my sweet wife and daughter in Nantucket, but must forever sail after the white whale. If he must come aboard, he must help me catch the white whale for revenge. If he must strike through the pasteboard mast, as things are not as they seem. As I understand it, that book didn't sell very well. You're still living on...
It didn't sell well while I was living.
No, I know, but you're
But
still
after
living,
I did,
so...
I've come back.
Your estate.
I've come back.
Oh, but ghosts can't spend money, you know that.
I did a lot of writing.
Yeah.
You know, so it supported my lifestyle. And your story supported part of my lifestyle.
Yes, right, a small part of it.
Small part of it while I was alive.
Yes.
Yes.
Better, yeah.
After that, made loads of money. My best-selling book after I died.
Yeah, but the first one you Taipei made money,
Yes,
didn't it?
it did.
But Omu didn't?
My best-selling book was Taipei. And your character was created off of my captain on the Acushnet.
He was that tough? Monomaniacal?
That's what made us...
No wonder you jumped ship.
That's why we jumped ship.
Yeah, right.
Would you want to be 20 years old and be on a
I
ship?
am the captain, so
Oh, that's
care.
right. Then you know that. That's right.
Yeah.
Would you want to be 20 years and work for someone like you?
I wouldn't put up with it.
That's
But
why
I'm a captain.
And that's why we jumped ship.
One trip was all I took doing that. I was mate the second one, captain the third. Never looked back.
And obviously, you know, with your peg leg.
If we don't stop this pretty soon, this infirmity's going to get me down.
Well, I've got to go visit some of our other apparitions. Nice meeting you.
Melville.
Thank you. It's nice seeing my book come alive.
Yes, well, it's fun to do.
Maybe someday they'll figure out a way to recreate it on
virtual reality kind
something.
of thing. Yeah, right,
exactly, because books were our virtual reality.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You got to put your own mind into it.
Exactly.
If you do what you're talking about, there's none of you in it.
Right.
That's not all those people. Nonsense.
We've got another guest.
Hey, we got another guest here.
Captain. Mr. Melville, how are you? Captain?
Fine.
You're a concoction of Mr. Melville.
Yes, we were just talking about that.
He says there's going to be things that are going to, like project.
Maybe somehow make my book come alive.
Well, this is not unlike St. Elmo's fire.
St. Elmo. I don't recall seeing that fire.
Phosphorus off of the sails in a thunderstorm.
Oh yes, okay, that's St. Elmo's fire. Correct.
Right. And I ran into a fellow with a little box that he said would create illuminations. He would capture.
Yes.
He said he would capture whales.
It's called a photograph. It's ridiculous. Yes.
Oh, it'll never last.
No, it's
never last.
definitely a fad.
Yes, never last.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Very good. I'm going off ship. The same.
Same here.
The same.
Are we relieved yet?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Almost.